Thank you, Emily. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, everyone, for being here. And thank you for having me back. So this is my second go around with Boost Biz Ed. It's a great group. And one thing I really like about it is that you have the networking component, but you also have some form of teachable moment. So I'm very excited to be back. Thank you so much for having me. You should all have some handouts in front of you. Use them however you would like. I'm a fan of leaving something behind with you that you can take notes on if you so choose. And okay, all right, everybody has stuff. All right, so we have a limited time. This is something I normally spend about 2 hours talking about. We can go pretty deep when we talk about generations, but for today, due to the nature of the group and its intent, I do want to talk about one specific component with the different generations, and the subtitle here, how to seal the deal with different generations. We can talk and talk and talk about generational communication and differences, but what do you do with that? How do you influence someone of a different generation when you are trying to get something, to seal the deal, to sell them an idea, to influence them, to make a decision a certain way? Okay? Any questions you have, please let me know. We can save them for the end. We can be very interactive here. This is your time, okay? All right, so what is the big deal? Okay, a lot of folks say, oh my gosh, you are beating a dead horse already with this generational stuff. Well, the reason people keep bringing it up is because it's so important and some things are just being missed, okay? So when we talk about generational differences, it is more than just a trendy topic. It is more than just a buzzword. Some people, they don't want to use the M word. Millennials. They don't want those people, the M word, don't say it. Okay, there's a reason that this is still stirring with people in business and in corporations. So it's more than just a buzzword. It's more than just the cool thing to talk about right now. Client and business relationships are often lagging and struggling because of generational differences. We can agree to disagree on a lot of things. We're always going to have conflict. We're always going to have differences. But the differences between the generations and how they communicate and how they work together is really causing a lot of rifts in business and the workplace. So we're going to work through some of those things today. And then bottom line right there, not a lot of folks like conflict. They shy away from it. Oh, I'd rather just avoid it. Let me just take a vacation or go to the coffee maker. Let me just backpedal my way out of this. I don't want to deal with conflict. So generational misunderstandings do often lead to conflict. So hopefully today we can give you some tools that you can walk away with to make sure that this doesn't happen, to make sure that you have better communication, and to make sure that you can get what you want when you need to from the different generations that you're working with. Okay? You ready? Are we ready?
Ready.
Okay. All right. Here we go. So here's what we're going to talk about. Now, we happen to have a generational expert in the room with us today, and we've had many conversations about generational differences and the components that go into them. So for purposes of today, I'm going to discuss the 3 primary generations in the workplace. And when I say workplace, I mean primarily corporations and small business, okay? We're going to talk about the characteristics that each generation identifies with. We are going to discuss, there are a few influencers that impact every generation, no matter what the generation is. There are 5 key things, so we're going to talk about those. We are going to look at key behavior styles, not to label someone, not to put a stigma around, oh, well, they act that way, so they must be a boomer. Oh, they said that, they must be a millennial. We don't do that. We try not to put labels on people or put them in boxes, but there are some key behavior styles that each generation participates in just based on how they were raised and where they come from. And then we're going to talk about how we can close each generation that we're talking about today in a sales situation, because we've got some entrepreneurs in this room, right? Small business owners. And you're probably not going to talk to a baby boomer the same way you're going to talk to a millennial, depending on the situation, or an Xer versus an iGen. Okay, so we're going to talk about that toward the end. All right, so let's start by talking about today's working generations and their identifying characteristics. But before we do that, what the heck is this? Who are these people? This is an old-looking black and white photo, this cute little couple here. In the background it says Copa. Does anybody know what that is? Copa? Yes, thank you, thank you. Yeah. So Copacabana, you might think nightclub, you might think Barry Manilow, maybe nothing comes to mind. So the building in the background is the Copacabana in New York City, not the original. The original is no longer there. The folks in this photo, I know that this photo was taken in 1960. This was their first wedding anniversary at the Copacabana. It was a favorite date spot of theirs. And I know this because these are my parents. Joyce and Bick, they are no longer on this planet, but I bring this to your attention because I like to tell stories when I can and when it's fitting. But I have had a number of folks approach me and say, gosh, Victoria, what qualifies you to talk about this? You're so young. I'm thankful for that. People think I'm a little younger than I am. However, when I share my story with people, Joyce and Bick, my parents, were of the silent generation, a generation we don't even really talk about anymore. I am the youngest of 6 children. My oldest sibling is old enough to be my mother. So if you want to talk about a music collection, I've got an amazing music collection. Records, CDs, digital stuff, a turntable even. But I tell you this story so that you know this isn't just some fluffy thing that I enjoy talking about because it's fun. It is something that I can truly get behind from personal experience. It was quite the upbringing. So, all right, what is going on here? Okay, we've got a little bit of humor, maybe some confusion. This gal up in the left corner, that's a telephone with a cord, and the lower right-hand button, she's like, what is that thing? It's like a tic-tac-toe board, right? Do you remember that? Do you remember phones like this? Yeah, yes, a pound sign. Exactly. So someone who is a boomer or a Gen Xer knew it as a pound sign. Some people said, oh, the tic-tac-toe board on the phone. A millennial, even the younger generations than that, it's a hashtag, right? The bottom graphic here, 2 kids playing a game. The dad must be questioning them. Tic-tac-toe? No, we're playing hashtag. So it just shows you over time how things have changed. Now, just for fun, what's this orange thing? Cubert. Yes, thank you. It's Dawn, correct? Yes. All right.
What is it?
Cubert.
It used to be a video game. Cubert?
Cubert. So the letter Q, Bert. His name is Cubert. 1 big nose, 2 little feet. It was from the 80s. So a Gen Xer can completely identify with what we felt was one of the greatest video games ever. This was before Nintendo. And Cubert spoke in pound signs and at signs and things that a generation would look at completely differently. Okay, just to bring some awareness to what we have going on. Cubert. All right, so a lot of folks get hung up on years when we talk about the different generations. So please use this as a guide because you may be 25 years old and act like someone who's 75 or vice versa, okay? So when we talk about baby boomers, we're gonna go with born between 1945 to 64, Gen Xers, 65 to 80, and your millennials, 81 to 99. Now, when we think corporately or small business, these are the generations that are out there right now, pounding the pavement, getting the job done. It does not mean we discount the traditionalists, the silent generation, or the I generation, okay? There are very few traditionalists out there working, pounding the pavement on a regular basis.
I would say that's, I would beg to differ.
Yes, and I agree with you.
Like that.
Right, exactly, and we're actually going to touch upon that, the work ethic and what's going on in the working world.
But not in corporate.
Right. And your iGens are up and coming, very intelligent. They've had a lot to follow. They've had a lot modeled for them. But an iGen is not going to be sitting at a desk in a corporate office right now, today. But they will get there. So when you think iGen, think someone who might have a part-time job or a summer job or working a retail job, that sort of thing. They're out there and they're working, and we need to pay very close attention to them. But we're not going to focus so much on them for purposes of today. Okay? All right. So when we talk about identifying characteristics, and we start with baby boomers, okay? These are some of the things we have going on. So activity and wellness, as it relates to a baby boomer, how many times, if you turn the television on anymore, or you're watching ads on social media, do you see an ad with a very good-looking, older couple with gray hair, and they're holding hands and they're walking down the golf course or driving their little golf cart, talking about the 55 plus community or the retirement community? Okay, they make it very glamorous and very flashy. Baby boomers are very into activity and wellness because they have the resources to do so. They're living longer, they're staying healthier. So this is really important to them. Savvy shoppers, when a baby boomer was in their working prime, and a lot of them still are, but years ago, very savvy shoppers because they could be. They had the financial stability from their jobs, so they had the paychecks, they had the buying power, they could get what they needed to get and buy what they needed to buy. They had that stability because they worked. Strong work ethic. So many boomers, that's what they know. You work for what you want. You work and you earn the things you have. A 50, 60, 70 hour a week job that a lot of folks might cringe at. Oh, I want to go play. That's normal behavior for a baby boomer. That's what they knew. Work fulfills them. So they have a very strong work ethic. Baby boomers are also very team-oriented and very disciplined. And when I say team-oriented, for those of you who can think back, even if it's through a family story or experience or a movie, the guys, okay, they went out there on the football team and they played to win, and they won together. They earned that trophy together. They went to work, they showed up on time or early, they worked the day, they stayed late, they pounded the pavement. A baby boomer's work ethic is phenomenal. It's what they knew. They are the generation that I refer to as the original trophy generation. We've heard the millennials be called the trophy generation. We'll get to that in a second. I would consider baby boomers the original trophy generation because they earned it, and they earned it together on a goal-oriented team. Okay? Now, Gen X, self-sufficient. What word might come to mind? Latchkey kids. Thank you, Joyce. Yes. So Gen X was really the first generation that saw their parents getting divorced, or at least it was put out there that their parents were getting divorced. Both parents were having to go to work. They were left home alone a lot. okay? That is a key identifying characteristic of Generation X. Because of that, Gen Xers are very adept to change. They saw what was happening with their parents. They also saw for the first time their parents losing their jobs. Oh my gosh, what do I do now? What are mom and dad doing? What are we gonna do? They saw so many changes. They had to be flexible because it was something that they hadn't experienced before they became survivors, very independent. Gen Xers made it very clear that they value what I call work-play balance. I don't use the term work-life balance because we are all living life, but rather than work-life balance, work is a component of life, but work-play balance, the Gen Xers really had the mindset, I don't play games at work, I don't deal with the red tape and the politics, I'm gonna work so that I can go out and play and enjoy my life rather than living their lives to work, work, work. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just the different generations and what they were exposed to. And then Gen Xers really had to embrace technology. If you think about it, the desktop computer was a big deal for Gen Xers. The cell phones that were the size of a shoebox were a big deal for Gen Xers if they were lucky enough to have one, right? Even laptop computers that were 3 times as heavy, if not 5 times as heavy as the laptop computers that we have now, bigger, clunkier, but that was the generation that really had to start embracing technology. And then we have our millennials.